That's words from Dea on Magic. 8:35 is our time, and this is when Mike Barrett checks in, as we just mentioned, with another weekly edition of Good Policies with Barrett Insurance Agency, and we're still practicing safe distancing. Mike phones in. How are you, buddy?
I am doing well. How are you?
Doing okay. Things are starting to seem a bit on the upswing here as far as businesses go and restrictions throughout our gorgeous Green Mountain State here. Of course, the number one question is for insurance needs. Folks have been able to get a hold of you pretty much 24 hours a day through this, but what's it looking like for you guys to open up the office for regular business?
Exactly. So that's one of the interesting things is that just because you're being told you can doesn't mean you necessarily should in certain things in life. And so I think that's kind of the approach we're taking here is that our office remains closed to the public, but we still are operating in our normal capacity otherwise. We just want to make sure that we have the appropriate safety protocols in place and that we're completely compliant with what's necessary to safely reopen. Not that we're afraid to do so, we're afraid that we would do it wrong. So we want to make sure that we're doing it properly. So I anticipate that we'll be making a call before the week's end as to whether we'll get those front doors unlocked for next week, which would be my goal, and I think my wife's goal as well. But again, it's all about being safe and properly sanitizing and practicing the social distancing. And for those who've never been to our office, the way our office is set up, that 6-foot rule is very easy to comply with when we just have our staff in there. But once we start bringing on the ability for people to come into the office, we're going to be easily breaking that. So we're trying to figure out a safe and appropriate way to comply and be able to service the needs of the community and especially our clients through these transitional period that we're going back to hopefully some normalcy.
Well, that's good to hear, Mike. And we might just as well dive right into things here. It was a couple, maybe 3 weeks ago, we talked about how some auto insurance companies out there were giving discounts to their customers. Why not address that this morning?
Absolutely. So a key thing to remember is that I think really at this point I'm not aware of any auto insurance carrier that's not doing something. If there is, I could be mistaken, but from what I saw on the laundry list is it started with a couple, and it just comes from there with some of the national carriers introducing this refund program for the auto insurance. And again, this is auto insurance only. This is not applying to business owners or workers' comp or homeowners insurance or any other lines. It's just auto insurance. And why is that? Well, under the Stay Safe, Stay Home order, which basically was across the country, the amount of on-the-road driving was greatly reduced. And as such, when you greatly reduce the risk of accidents, you have fewer accidents. So companies realized that there was going to be a lot less paid out, and they realized there was something they could do to try to help, and that's why this has happened. So the way these refunds work varies between every company, and I'm talking the variation is whether it's 15% or 25% or somewhere in the middle on 2 or 2.5 or 3 months worth of your auto insurance premium. If you pay in full, you could expect a refund check. If you pay in installments, maybe they'll just apply a credit to what you're currently paying. It's about checking your statements. It's about checking your invoicing from the companies and seeing how those credits are being handled. But pretty much if you have auto insurance, you'll see something. And it will vary greatly. You're talking 15 to 25% on 2 to 3 months of premium. How much does that really work out to be? Probably on average around on the lower end, maybe $20 to $30 of a refund. If you have a very high auto insurance rate, we've had people that have seen over $100 refund. So it is happening. The timeline varies as much as everything else. So just keep an eye on that.
All right, so folks, with us is Mike Barrett from Barrett Insurance Agency with our good policies for the week. So basically, like the way these companies provide their insurance is, they all do it differently. You end up with the same product in the end, but the refunds are being done basically the same way, right?
Yeah, exactly. And one other thing I want to mention is that many companies that have business owners policies have done creative things to try to shave expense for business owners who are impacted either by reduced business or being closed. So that's something that you would want to bring up. That's not necessarily a national campaign or big to-do, but that's something as a business owner, if you've been impacted, I recommend talking to your agent. And with workers' compensation, they have introduced some new class codes for people who are still on payroll but may not be at work, because the risk does change when you're not on site. So there'll be some workers' compensation adjustments. Mostly we'll see that at the renewal of workers' compensation policy periods, where they do those renewal audits where you're going to be showing that you maybe had less payroll. So it's quite possible, depending on your circumstance, that your next workers' compensation audit, if you're a business owner, might yield you a bit of a refund in itself. So that's something to keep an eye on too.
So whether, and we know not all of our listeners are insured with Barrett, we'd like that, yes, but everybody wants to have the conversation, and that's why we get together every week, is so that people will know that sometimes, like my dad always said, the stupidest question is the one you never ask. Have the question, have the conversation.
If all we accomplish through doing these weekly conversations is to get thought starters in someone's mind to address their insurance needs, whether it be with us or with someone else, that's all we can ask for. That's why we're happy to do this.
Well, we're happy to have you on board here, Mike. Anything you want to leave our listeners with before we send you back to teaching Ethan?
So be safe. Let's get back to normalcy in an appropriate way. The good news is we have some nice weather this week, so get out and have some fun. I can't wait. I'm homeschooling my son today. We're going to blast through the curriculum, and we're going to go outside and play.
And, folks, if you got a motorcycle, make sure you got your coverage turned on, okay?
Yes, and classic cars and recreational vehicles, all the above.
All right, Mike, give me your contact information.
Sure, 748-5224. We are physically located on Portland Street in St. Johnsbury. Again, we are still closed this week, but that we do hope will change next week. To the public, we are open, but just not open to the public for coming in. You can find us online, thebarrettagency.com, where you can get a free online home or auto quote. And we are on Google, Facebook, and YouTube as Barrett Insurance Agency.
Thank you, Mike. The best to you and your family. We look to seeing you again real soon, okay?
Sounds good, Jeff. Stay well, and yourself, get out and play today, will you?
Oh, definitely going to do that. Definitely. Thank you. Bye-bye now.
Yeah.
Mike Barrett from Barrett Insurance Agency, Portland Street in St. Johnsbury. Music on the way from Dan and Shay. First, it's American Authors.